I don't want to talk about the fancy mumbo jumbo. I want you to translate all the different economists that say, we're seeing this, we're seeing that, but then there's the technology overlay. Is that a crutch for mystery, or is there a technology overlay that in 10 or 20 or 50 years we're going to look back and say, that was more profound than we knew then?
Well, actually, I don't think the economists are the best people to ask about that question. I spend a lot of time in Washington, New York, and other places talking to the economists, and I think they're still catching up on the wave. And I see myself as one of the people who can translate what's happening in the tech community around MIT and Silicon Valley and elsewhere, because there's a contrast when you talk to those two groups. Amazing, breathtaking things happening in underlying technologies, and we're just beginning to understand how that affects the economy.
You own the phrase productivity paradox.
Right.
The productivity paradox for our listeners, our viewers, is everything from their kids too much time on YouTube to the idea that they're going to lose their job or their job will be diminished, they'll be underemployed because of this modern use of technology. Update us on the paradox, that fear that so many people feel.
Well, the real core of that paradox is this puzzling fact that while we have these breathtaking technologies, productivity growth has not increased. In fact, it's slowed down. It used to be 2.8% up to 2004. Since then, it's been 1.3%. The last quarter published in the United States was actually negative. So it's really not taking off. To me, that was a bit surprising, but when we dove in deeper, I think we understand what's going on here. And that is that businesses are not translating those technologies into new business processes, new products, new ways of doing business. And as a result, we're not harvesting that benefit. I think the real challenge for the next 10 years is not going to be so much pushing more amazing technologies, although I'm all for that. It's going to be for business leaders like the ones here in Davos to say, we got to change our businesses. Yes, there's going to be restructuring. Yes, some workers are going to have to learn new skills. And that's a painful, difficult process, but it's what we have to do if we want to get the benefits of technology.
Let's talk about something else that's painful, taxes. One of the moments of the World Economic Forum last year, 12 months ago, and for our audience that may not have seen this, go to YouTube, find it. It was a panel, Michael Dow, Professor Brynjolfsson, talking about taxes, and Michael Dow came out and said 60, 70, 80% taxes on the top rate. Tell me a country where this has worked. And you sparked up and you said, the United States, the 1950s.
Not just the 50s, the 60s,
30s.
the 70s. There was about a 30-year period. And, you know, productivity growth, economic growth, standards of living did reasonably well. So I'm not going to weigh in on what the exact right tax rate is. It's just that as a professor, when I hear someone make a statement that calls for a correction, I couldn't resist stepping in.
Well, let's talk about that, because you haven't put your views out there, but I sense a disappointment in the level, the sophistication of the conversation around issues like this right now. Have they improved in the last 12 months?
No, they've continued to get worse. I mean, the big disappointment since we wrote that book, The Second Machine Age, has been that while the technology has gone, if anything, faster than we thought, the policy response has not been commensurate. In fact, in many ways, people seem to be looking backwards. Let's try to bring back coal, or let's try to stop the technology from advancing. And taxes is part of that. It's not necessary that we need higher or lower taxes. We need smarter taxes, like carbon taxes, that will direct innovation and energy and efforts into areas that make the planet better.
Right. There's a small school upriver from MIT. I can't remember.
What's the name?
I can't remember.
There's
a guy named Rogoff there, and in our panel this week, he went right to Brynjolfsson 101, which is a carbon tax is more visible, more countable, more transparent versus all the other auction theories that are out there. Explain to someone listening to us right now. Al from New Jersey emailed in today. Tell Al from New Jersey right now how you affect a carbon tax for New Jersey, for Nebraska, and for the Netherlands. How do you do this?
Well, what Al needs to understand is that the carbon tax should and will, I hope, be coupled with a carbon dividend. So Al will probably come out ahead because the money that's collected will be paid back evenly. Nonetheless, that will lead to a lot less use of carbon because polluting industries will have to bear the price. Economics 101 is that if you don't have to pay the cost that you're imposing on society, you're going to do too much of that. You're going to pollute too much. But if you do pay the price through a carbon price, then you will cut back on that.
Brilliantly explained, Professor, but the core of the matter, as Ronald Coase 101, is society doesn't believe what you just said. They say Al from New Jersey and Peter from Amsterdam aren't going to have But come on, they're not. They have a distrust in Amsterdam that they're going to get taken by Warsaw, Poland. Al from New Jersey has a distrust. He's going to be taken by that person out in Nebraska. How do you guys fix that?
Well, economists disagree on a lot of things, but there's almost universal agreement on this. Steve Mnuchin said something really good earlier this week. He said we should listen to the economists on climate change. The economists are almost unanimous that a carbon tax is the way to go. I agree with Ken, my colleague up at Harvard, and 3,000 other economists, 27 Nobel Prize winners. There's a letter on this that we all signed, the most economists ever signing one letter in history. And the proposal is for a $40 carbon tax and a dividend. So I hope that Steve and Mnuchin and the rest of the administration does listen to the economists.
I hate to say it, though. Economists, and whether people should trust economists, don't exactly get the best of raps, do they?
Well, maybe not. Maybe they do. But in this issue, they do. We all agree.
Eric, very quickly, when's the next book out? You and Mac, are you guys on speaking terms still?
We actually shared a apartment here in Davos, which was great.
John and I did not. They put us at separate ends of the valley. There's a photo that went out last night, folks. I don't know who took that photo. Should be shot. I mean, come on.
Well, it was great because the sad reality is both of us spend a lot of time on the road, so we don't see each other at MIT as much as we should. So sometimes we have to come to Davos to catch up.